Good morning from WKYT News. I'm Bill Bryant, and we hope you're enjoying your weekend, and we welcome you to Kentucky Newsmakers. Later, we'll be meeting 19-year-old Noah White, who was the top vote getter in the London City Council race. That's later, but first on Kentucky Newsmakers, the incoming Speaker of the Kentucky House of Representatives is here. Jeff Hoover will bang the gavel in the upcoming session of the General Assembly. He will be the first Republican to hold that powerful post since 1921. Hoover has been in the legislature for 20 years, holding the seat that was once held by both his father and mother, the only person who has ever had that distinction. But Representative Hoover has spent those 2 decades in the minority. All of that changed last Tuesday when the GOP rolled to huge victories in House districts around the state and won a supermajority. Now the question is, where will the newly in-charge Republicans go with legislation, as they have the power to make the rules that we all live by? Speaker-elect Hoover is joining us on Kentucky Newsmakers. Welcome. It's good to see you.
Well, thank you, Bill. Good to see you, and thank you for having me.
We appreciate it. You could obviously see that the trends looked good heading into the election. Did you have any idea that you would pick up this number of seats and the Republicans would throw out the likes of the longtime Democratic Speaker Greg Stumbo, Representative Hubert Collins, and others who'd been there a long time?
No, in all honesty, I did not see picking up 17 seats. We had 47 members, which was the most members we've had in almost 100 years. I felt pretty confident we would pick up 4 seats to get us into the majority for the first time since 1921. And I thought on a good day, we could wind up with 56 or 57, maybe pick up 9 or 10, but never saw 17 new seats or pickups. We have 23 new members as a result of the election last Tuesday.
So what was blowing that wind so hard?
You know, I think people really wanted a change. It started at the national level. That was part of our message all across Kentucky. One, we had very good candidates. We had more candidates than we've ever had before. Out of 100 House seats, we had candidates, Republican candidates, in 91 districts. That's unprecedented. I think in my 20 years, the most previously was like 84, 85. So we had good candidates. People were ready for a change at the national level. That was part of our message at the state level, saying, look, the Democrats have been in control for almost 100 years in the Kentucky House. Give us a chance. Give us a chance to lead and to govern. And with good candidates and the financial resources that we had, it just worked out.
There was also a lot of money that was coming in from outside the state in this Flip the House effort. Was that money from outside Kentucky that was used largely to tie lawmakers to national figures like President Obama and Hillary Clinton, the Democratic nominee? Is that what made the difference in so many of these races?
It had an effect, but it really wasn't the turning point. All of our candidates, as well as the candidates on the other side, had outside money helping them as well. Obviously, it had an effect, and part of the message was, particularly east of I-75 in eastern Kentucky, the message was, look where you are, led by Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, who infamously went to Ohio a few months ago and said, we're going to put coal miners out of work and coal companies out of business. And so that was part of our message, that we can do things better and differently in Kentucky, and it just resonated with folks who are wanting a change.
Mr. Speaker-elect, do you feel that Kentucky coal miners will be put back to work, or is eastern Kentucky going to have to continue to diversify its economy?
Well, we're hopeful that we can do some things at the state level that will be beneficial to stop the bleeding. Obviously, a lot of it will have to come from the national level, but we're working on some things. Governor Bevin, just last Thursday, we had a meeting and some ideas that he has to try and help diversify eastern Kentucky. We're hoping to stop the bleeding as far as the coal industry and do some things to help. I mean, it's a tough challenge, as you know, Bill. There are a lot of issues and a lot of challenges facing this state.
Now that Republicans control the House, and not only control it, but you have a supermajority,
right.
you have enough to put on a constitutional amendment just with the Republicans right.
Right.
At this point. What will the agenda be? Will your caucus emphasize social or economic issues, or what will you be doing?
You know, our top priority is going to be how to make Kentucky job friendly. And by that, I mean putting policies in place that will encourage out-of-state companies to want to locate to Kentucky to create jobs. Policies that will encourage manufacturers to want to come to Kentucky to do business. Policies that will encourage existing businesses to grow and expand. There are things that we can do to just change the business climate. It's all about creating jobs and growing the economy, and that will be our focus. That will be our focus from day one. We're actually having a caucus meeting with all 64 members, including, as I said, 23 brand new members in a couple of weeks, and we'll start setting our agenda and the things that we want to get done. But I can assure you that the top priority of a House controlled by a Republican majority is to create a job-friendly environment in Kentucky for out-of-state businesses to locate here, and for existing businesses and even entrepreneurs who want to come here and invest to create jobs. We want to put policies in place that encourage all those things.
Is that largely a function of decreasing regulations and changing some of this tax structure?
Well, the governor has started his red tape reduction initiative, and it's amazing the number of suggestions that his office has received from all over the state, more than 400 in some. And he's done some executive orders with regard to some of the recommendations he has received. So we're going to have to codify some of those, put those into permanent statute. But as I travel around this state, business people, not just big companies, but small businesses, are begging for relief from all the red tape. So that is part of it that we will look at. And just putting other policies in place.
The governor sat where you are last week, and he talked about an ambitious agenda that he has, and right-to-work legislation is something that he puts off the top.
Yeah, certainly when you talk about changing the business climate in Kentucky and creating a climate in Kentucky, an environment in Kentucky that will attract out-of-state companies to come here, that will allow existing businesses to grow and expand. When you talk about doing that, you have to have, as a very vital part of that discussion, right-to-work laws. Again, we're going to have a caucus meeting in a couple of weeks. There's no question that will be a main topic of discussion as we decide how to move forward.
School choice is another area that the governor mentions. What does that mean to you?
Well, the Senate had some proposed legislation last year that had quite a bit of support. And what the Senate proposed to do was to establish some pilot projects in Jefferson County and Fayette County that would allow for public charter schools. You know, Bill, as I've traveled around, and in particular in Jefferson County, and I've met with leaders from parts of Jefferson County, they are begging for an alternative to the public school system, which is failing in Jefferson County in many areas. And they're looking for an alternative. I think we owe them as policymakers, as our fellow brothers and sisters in Jefferson County, to let them have an alternative to see if it can work. So the Senate passed a piece of legislation that provided for public charter schools on a pilot project basis just in Fayette and Jefferson County. I think there is some support for that in the House, and that's something we're going to talk about.
The courts have reversed the governor on some things that because he made some moves that, based on present statutes, apparently ran afoul of those in reorganizing the University of Louisville Board and so forth. Do you think that the now Republican-dominated legislature will change those laws and give him more authority to do things like that?
Well, I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to listen to the governor with his concerns on that particular situation and some others. We're going to work with him where we can. But we are not going to give away our independence. We will be an independent branch of government. We will work with the governor and his folks, as well as President Stivers and the Senate at every opportunity we can. But I've made it clear to our members, and they agree, that we are going to be independent. We want to work together. So with regard to that particular issue, You know, we're learning about it, and we're learning how to respond and how to act responsibly with regard to that issue. So we're going to listen to the governor, we're going to listen to his concerns, and hopefully we can forge some path forward that helps rectify the problems that exist.
So you would say that even interim committees and oversight committees will continue very aggressively to look at things, even within the administration, so that the legislature holds the executive branch accountable?
Absolutely. That is of paramount importance to me and to our members, because government functions best when that accountability, that checks and balances in place. It's not to say that we're not going to cooperate and not work with the governor. We are. I think this governor is doing overall a very good job, and I'm proud of some of the things that he has done. But we're going to be that checks and balances and that independent branch of government. Hopefully we can work together on every issue. There may be times we're going to disagree, but you know, the people want us to get things done.
He acknowledged that one-party control, complete control of government can have its perils. How do you ensure that Republicans can guard against the kind of excesses that you have accused the Democrats of over the years?
Well, one of the things that I have said from day one since we became the majority, and since last Thursday when I was elected Speaker-elect to assume that position on January the 3rd, is I'm going to reach out to the minority party in the House. I know what it's like to be in the minority. I was there for 20 years. Most of our guys, well, they've all been in the minority, but some of them even longer than 20 years. And just because you're in the minority party doesn't mean you don't have good ideas and you can't contribute. So I want to reach out to the minority party. I want to be inclusive with them as we try to solve the tremendous challenges facing this state. And I think when you do that, and when you're a truly independent branch of government, and you do hold the executive branch accountable, you're not afraid to stand up and say, we disagree here, we can't go there, we have a different idea. If you can do that, then government will work.
You've seen the partisanship we've seen over the last couple of decades, actually.
Right.
You have been there when it has happened and solidified. A piece of legislation can fail under a minority member's name, and the same piece of legislation will be passed if a majority member
It's funny how that
sponsors it.
works, you know.
Right?
Yep, exactly.
So there'll be some of that, huh?
Well, what I'm really hoping to do is that we build a relationship with the minority. Look, over 20 years, I think I've done a pretty good job. I've tried to do a good job of reaching across the aisle and having good relationships. I've received several phone calls from current Democrat legislators who were encouraging and offered their support. So just because it's sponsored by a minority who happens to be a Democrat doesn't mean we're going to take that bill and give it to a Republican. That doesn't need to be part of the process. We all, if it's a good idea, whether it's Republican or Democrat, we need to look at it.
Speaker-elect Jeff Hoover is our guest on Kentucky Newsmakers. A little later, you'll meet the 19-year-old who was elected to the London City Council. We're coming back on WKYT and Kentucky Newsmakers in a moment. Welcome back into WKYT's Kentucky Newsmakers, and we're glad you're with us. And Speaker-elect Jeff Hoover is with us. He's a Republican from southern Kentucky, the Jamestown area,
Jamestown, right?
And you've represented that district since 1996.
That's correct.
Time has flown, I'm sure,
It
right?
sure has.
A lot of growth.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah,
it has.
exactly. Lots of changes. Well, Governor Bevin also told us that pension reform still needs to be done. There were some fixes made. There was some money invested last year. But he wants to change the way that state employees save for retirement. He also brought up the 27 years retirement for teachers, and that we have 49-year-olds retiring with, as he said, a lot of gas in the tank. Are those the kinds of things that could be adjusted?
Well, I think we have to look at everything when it comes to our pension system. We are the worst funded public pension system in the country. Even though this past legislative session, kudos to Governor Bevin. He proposed, and we finally went along, more money into our public pension systems than had ever been done before. But it's really it's just a drop in the bucket of things that need to take place. So you have to look at the overall structure. There has to be more transparency, more accountability. That's one of the important things for us, is to make the pension systems more transparent. You know, who's investing? What are the placement agents' role? Where are the taxpayer dollars going? Those things are important. And the structural changes, they have to be done, Bill. It's a matter of what gets done, but we have to make changes because we cannot financially sustain the system as it is right now.
You mentioned the governance of the universities earlier, and you said that the legislature will be very careful in the way it addresses that, because this is, after all, decisions that will be, once made, they go forward for a long time. Kentucky has been pulling back on its financial commitment to its state universities and colleges for almost a decade now, after the economic problems of 2008. Surrounding states are ramping up their commitment. The data shows that people with degrees earn more money typically. Do you anticipate that that trend will continue, that the universities become publicly assisted and get less money, or will there come a time when there is more available that there will be a larger investment made?
Well, reduction in funding to post-secondary education institutions is certainly a concern for many of us, especially those of us who are currently putting children through college, understand firsthand, because every time there is a reduction in state funding, there is an increase in tuition. What's interesting is the increase in tuition greatly exceeds the reduction in state funding. So it is an issue, it's an ongoing issue that we have to look at, but it begs the bigger question, which is, we have to have comprehensive tax reform in this state. We have to have a tax system that is not antiquated like we have now. We have to have a tax system that will grow with the economy. As you create jobs, it will grow. Therefore, when your tax base grows, your revenues grow. And to get us in a better position of funding all of the things that we have. I mean, when you look at the pension system, you look at the expansion of Medicaid in this state, from 800,000 just 3 years ago to 1.3 million citizens now on Medicaid, and that additional cost, which is unsustainable in the future. Those are the things that are pulling on our funding levels for post-secondary institutions. So we have to address those. We have to address comprehensive tax reform, but there's no question that decreased funding to public universities is a real concern for many of us.
Can that comprehensive tax reform be done in a short session?
No.
Now, then is it done in a special session or the next year?
Well, you would hope that, I mean, there's work already underway. We have staff and some of our legislators are involved in that. And I know the governor's folks are involved. So it would be very difficult to do it in the 2017 session, which, as you know, is after the organizational week is only 25 days. So how soon can we come to some agreement on a comprehensive plan? My focus is, and I told the governor last week, we don't need to piecemeal it. We need a comprehensive plan. If we can do that in 3 months or 6 months, or if we have to wait till next January, we've got to get it done.
But as you recall, Governor Paul Patton 20 years ago, when you arrived on the scene, was talking about the same thing, and it didn't go anywhere, despite him at that time having control of both chambers.
Right. It's a monumental task. It will take this governor, once it's put in place, of what it actually encompasses, what's involved, and what's being proposed in comprehensive tax reform. It will take this governor, it will take the legislature, it will take business leaders in this state and all the stakeholders to buy in and be able to sell it to the people. That's what it's going to take.
Speaker-elect Hoover, thanks for coming.
Thank you, Bill.
Appreciate
Enjoyed being
much.
here.
Thank you. We'll be back in just a moment, and you'll meet the 19-year-old Noah White, who was the top vote getter in the race for London City Council. It's an intriguing story. We're back in a moment. Welcome back to Kentucky Newsmakers. There were lots of stories the day after the election, and this one is fascinating. Voters in London elected 19-year-old Noah White to the city council. White ran hard, but he said he didn't expect to win. Not only did he win, he ran first on the ticket. Noah White is here with us today on Kentucky Newsmakers. Congratulations and welcome, Mr. Councilman-elect. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
What were you thinking when you decided as a teenager to run for a top office in your town?
Well, my family's lived in London for generations. I love serving others and I love helping others. Out of my desire to help others and to serve my community, I decided to run for city council.
And as you got out there, how did you start your campaign? How did you decide you were going to run and try to win?
From the beginning, I knew that if I was going to do this, I wanted to do it for the right reasons. You know, I've said from the beginning I wanted to do two things: serve the people and give God the glory for it. And so I wanted to run a clean campaign. I didn't bash anyone and I didn't sling any mud. I'm really proud of that. I never even mentioned my opponent's names.
And as you get elected, the results come in, you had told us that you didn't think you would win at all.
No, well, I was the most unlikely candidate. I didn't win because of my family's position in the county or because of their experience in politics. I'm the first generation politician.
So you didn't have that going for you?
No. I had very little visibility before, and so I just decided I was going to go to every event that I could the past year, and I knocked on as many doors as possible.
So what was it like when you would knock on a door and say you were running for council?
It was an incredibly positive experience. I loved talking to the voters and seeing what they're concerned about and how I could better serve them. Well, I had a lot to prove. You know, I was the least likely candidate, so I had everything to prove. I had to work a lot harder than everyone else. And so I had to prove to the people of London that, hey, I'm serious about this. I want to work for you, and this is what I'm going to do.
But people surely said to you, you know, you're young. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, go out and have fun first, or that kind of thing, right?
No,
Did you
I
get
really
some of
didn't hear that.
No?
No, a lot of people were happy and excited to see a young person working for something.
Yeah. And so when you see others who are maybe not on a positive path or whatever,
Yeah.
you were telling me that kind of hits you, right? Because
Yeah, it's kind of depressing. I hope that through this story, through my story, my success story, I hope that I can inspire others to do hard things and work for something.
Now, tell us about London, the town that you grew up in, and that you're now going to be serving. What is it about that town that you so love?
Oh, I love the people of London. I love the history of London. It's just been a fantastic place to grow up and live, and I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. I'm excited to see what the future holds for London.
When issues come up before the City Council, and they will, and there will be big deals. There will be issues about the way the money is spent.
Sure.
There will be rules. There will be neighbor against neighbor from time to time who will be showing up down there. How are you going to get? How are you going to take in information and get people to work together?
Well, there's three things that I've talked about during my campaign. Yeah. I want to be transparent. I want to be an open book. If you ask me a straight question, I'm going to give you a straight answer. I'm not going to play politics or dodge a question. And throughout the campaign trail, my platform has been three things. I want to serve the people selflessly, glorify God, but there's three plot points that I've talked about. I want to cut wasteful spending, keep taxes as low as possible, and push to establish term limits for the mayor and city council.
Noah, when did you come up with all of this?
I signed the paperwork November 2015, so I've been running for a year, so I'm kind of happy that it's over now. But I put in a lot of thought and a lot of work, and I've talked to a lot of smart people because I knew when I started that I didn't have any experience and I didn't know what I was doing, so I went and got advice from a lot of experienced politicians.
The city government's responsible for enforcing the local alcohol ordinances and rules. You're not of age to drink at this point, but you'll have to deal with those kinds of issues, right?
Absolutely.
So that will be that'll be interesting.
It will. It will.
And as you also, as the top elected council person, are you likely to be the city's mayor pro tem, the person who fills in for the mayor in his absence?
Now, I'm not sure about this. I've looked at Kentucky law, and because someone told me that I might be the vice mayor after I was elected. London doesn't have a vice mayor, but I'm not sure about that.
Tell us what else you do in your busy life. You had other things going on besides this council run, right?
I'm a homeschool graduate. I'm the oldest of 7 children, so I've got a big family. That takes up a lot of time. I really enjoy it. I started my own company when I was 16. I've got a video production company. I'm a full-time college student at the University of Full Sail, and I ran for city council.
And what do you hope to do in the future?
I want to grow my business. I'd like to go more commercially, help other businesses grow their business, and I want to help the city grow.
And you told me you're for term limits.
Right.
Okay, explain that.
Okay.
Because you're getting started young, you can term limit out pretty fast.
I know it. It's a shame. Well, at my house, politician's a dirty word. You know, I don't like politicians. I want to be an anti-politician. I think there's a big difference between being a public servant and being a politician. My top 4 politicians of all time would have to be William Wilberforce, one of the youngest ever elected to Parliament, Ronald Reagan, Matt Bevin, and Rand Paul. Those are my 4 heroes that I look up to. So
the term limits that you're for are
right. Well,
how strict are they?
Career politicians, I think they've gotten us into a lot of messes. I think with term limits, you've always got fresh ideas on the horizon.
So 2 terms, 3 terms?
I don't know. I haven't worked that out yet.
Yeah. What do you think the other council members are going to say? Maybe
they probably don't like it.
Yeah. So you enter office knowing that.
Yeah. Well, I'm not doing this for my health, and I'm not doing it for me. I want to do it to serve the people.
But there are going to be some things that'll take some convincing, right?
Yes, I'm sure.
And you're committed to doing that?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, these video messages that you put out, you think that had a lot to do with your
I think it helped
right?
me tremendously.
All right. Well, good luck to you, Noah. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you, sir.
We will watch your progress in London and whatever you do.
I appreciate it
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Kentucky Newsmakers on WKYT. I'll see you bright and early this week on WKYT This Morning, and we hope you make it a good week ahead.